These Creditors in Commerce workshop sessions, hereinafter sessions, are the private exchange of ideas and concepts between the providers and the recipients. The content is not meant as legal advice. The use or attempted use of any idea or procedure discussed in these sessions, as applied to the recipient's own personal transactions, cases, or controversies, or applied to other cases, may or may not result in a favorable outcome or the same outcome as discussed in these sessions. Each transition or transaction, case, or controversy may be different as a result of unique actions or unique statements made by the parties therein, and each different act or statement in any transaction affects or may affect whether any procedure or idea discussed in these sessions is relevant to the recipient's transactions or that the outcome thereof will be depicted as in these sessions. The discussion of ideas or procedures in these sessions is not exhaustive of the subjects being discussed. Many ideas and concepts that can affect the outcome of any legal or commercial procedure are not discussed in these sessions, and the fact that the recipients may not be aware of these issues may have an adverse effect on the outcome of the recipient's procedures. It is the responsibility of the recipients to understand their own transactions and to apply the appropriate and complete concepts necessary for a procedural and substantive remedy thereto. These sessions may be redistributed privately by any recipient to another recipient requesting them, condition upon the fact that this notice is provided therewith. If you have any questions, you may contact Creditors in Commerce by email at harmony@creditorsincommerce.com.
Let's talk about just a couple. We need you to get some practice. Some of you are having some interesting situations in your daily lives. One of the brothers here was telling me about, he was at the bank the other day, and he was cashing a check, and the banker demanded a Social Security number, and he got into a little bit of a getting the manager there and this and that, and I don't have to give it to you. Let me help you with some of the thoughts. You've got to get into the position of creditor, and your attitude and come from is very important. Somebody doesn't want to cash a check or do something that they're required to do. It's going to be very important. I did a situation with a warden on a chess set at a particular prison, and it was a very wonderful thing for me to see, have him arrested and removed from office. But what I did prior to that, I had gone to the guard that took the set. I'd gone to his supervisor, which was the lieutenant. I'd gone to his boss, which was the captain. And I went to his boss, which was the associate warden, before I went to the warden. I had a problem with a particular large retailer one time. And when the employee didn't want to cash the check for failure to disclose the Social Security number, I asked to see her supervisor. And then I asked to see the store manager, and then the district manager. I went through the chain of authority. I didn't jump from an employee up to the president of that company or that bank or any of those things. You cannot usurp somebody's authority. You cannot do that. That's not just fair or correct. You've got to consider how you're doing things. You've got to give that person's supervisor a chance to fix the problem. Don't just run out and lean that employee. They took orders from somebody at that company who gave them orders, And you, if you will do your things with a good heart and genuine love, I don't lean people up for fun. I don't try and be mean about it. My come from. Brandon and Jack will tell you how important the come from is. Where is my heart? Now, Brandon talked about creditors forgive and do these things. Yes, they do. I forgive as soon as I think you've got your lesson learned. Now, I'm not being a smart aleck. I'm not always ready to let go right away, because I have some certain issues that I want dealt with in training these people. And I find that these police officers, these people everywhere, they're very good at what they do. And employees are on the lowest level. And you're going to see wonderful things happen. I had a friend, Johnny, he went to the DMV at 65 years of age. At 65 in Arizona, apparently you have to get a license renewed, no matter what. When he went down there, they wanted the Social Security number. he asked to see the law that required him to show it. 15 minutes later, the gal came out from the back with a bunch of the laws and the state laws and the DMV policy and all of that. And he countered with, I appreciate all that. Now, if you'll go back and have somebody put on there, you're refusing to give me a license for failure to disclose the Social Security number, we'll go with that. Employee disappeared for another 20 minutes, came back out, and guess what? Somehow they got a state legislature to pass it and everything. Somebody crossed that out, initialed it, and he did not have to supply the Social Security number. This young man I was talking to a few minutes ago, when he was in the bank, the gal was asking him, where do you work? He says, I don't have to tell you where I work. She goes, yes, you do. Do you really believe you have to tell them where you work? No. They just want an argument, just keeping you in the system and all the grief and crap that comes from it. Learn to be a creditor. Get to the next person up and the next person up and learn some of the laws. There's a banking article that if you'll email me, and I think we've given it, Brandon has it also, but it gives the quotes of, like when I was having trouble with a particular retailer and they didn't want to cash the check over the Social Security number, understand their rules. Remember, he talked about Christ knowing not only Roman law, but God's law. God's law were my unalienable rights. Roman law, or the United States laws, I knew that Title V, 552A, in the footnote states in pertinent part, nobody can deny you any right, benefit, or privilege on account of failure to disclose the Social Security number. That's a felony.
You can't open a bank account without a Social Security number.
Are you sure? I can, you can't.
Watch me.
Okay, I can. If you ask me, Mel, I'll give you the article on how to do it.
All right.
You can open bank accounts without Social Security numbers. Come on. Nobody can deny you any right, privilege, or benefit on account of failing to disclose it. There's things you can do. There's a whole world. That's why I say it's good to stay. I'm glad. You see, Mel didn't argue this time. She just, obviously she's seeing, something's up. Yes, I can't open them. Matter of fact, when I opened one at Wells Fargo, and when I was out talking to a Wells Fargo banker buddy of mine out in San Diego, he says, we got on that subject. I says, you can open an account here without a Social Security number. He goes, no, you can't. I says, do it for me. I'll show you. I said, just pretend I'm a new client. So he puts in the number, some of the information. I says, now, he says, what's your Social Security number? I said, well, I'm a not, he says citizenship. I says, he's got like 150 countries listed. I says, you got to go to hit other. I said, turn the computer around. Let me see it. I said, go to other. He hits other. Because when I'd done a Wells Fargo account in Phoenix, Arizona, I took my boy down to teach him because he needed a bank account, so I had him open one. I said, you don't have to give it, and I'll show you. So he did it, and I opened an account. I said, like, a checking account, please, non-interest-bearing checking account. He says, citizenship. I said, California. She said, huh? I said, California's my country. She said, I don't understand. She says, I'll just check others. She goes, oh, you want a W-8. I said, very good. Boop, boop, walked out with my checking account. No muss, no fuss. So I'm telling my banker buddy in San Diego. He does the same thing. He goes, oh my gosh, I just learned something. So there's some things you can do, ladies. There's a world waiting for you if you act like a creditor and you learn laws. I'll give you the banking article that kind of talks about it and does some of that stuff. There's so much available to you if you will open your mind and start looking and seeing. Remember, like Brandon said, critical thinking. Brother Mark over here, what a beautiful thing happened in China. You know, I mean, China is like perceived from all the papers and things we've read, straight up communist country. For true, America's a communist country. You can go into what's called the Red Amendment by L.B. Bork. It's got a little section in the back of it, a little 3-4 pages, really good about, explains the 10 planks to the Communist Manifesto. It says if you accept these, you're a communist. That's when the first time I read that, I said, God, I'm a communist. Because it says, central bank and certain education and property taxes and graduated income taxes, 10 planks to the Communist Manifesto. If you accept those, which mentally I had, I'm a communist. Yes, you are. But there's also the republic here in America, so it's going to be exciting for you as you expand your education. Some of you come up and talked about this mastery class that Brandon's got going in L.A. It's a great class. Never too late to get involved in it. Next August 14th, 15th is more of what administrative process, what you all just had the last day or two, administrative process. Brandon had some more to give you, but the computer went down. But you basically understand the concepts. He'll give you all of those things, and you can understand. It's not rocket science. You're going to learn it. You got Garrett, who did a phenomenal job and a wonderful story telling us. There's a guy he's not 35 years like Jack or 10 like Brandon and I roughly in this. This man's got like a year. 2 hours a day, and I wonder if it was 2 hours a day all the time when I first met him, you know. It wasn't. He wasn't like trying to learn it. I'm over at Brandon's. He's not even hanging out over there. He's just off. I got stuff to do. I got surfing, got the girlfriend, whatever, you know. And Garrett, I see him morphing, you know, and then I hear what he just did. I'm just, wow, I'm impressed. Because Brandon, Jack, and I couldn't have done a better job. I don't know if we could have done that good. That takes some serious attitude that he did. And he did it with love. Come on in, guy. Now get over there and sit down. Man, that guy's great. That is like so cool to hear. It's all these kinds of stories are going to really motivate you. Please practice this stuff. Consider at the bank, you know, when you sign, if you got something on the back of yours or whatever, practice it a little bit. You know, with your girlfriends, with your wives, with your spouses, you're going to see your whole life get better. I go to the restaurant one time. I told you, they're needing to seat me with my party. My party's not there. They just yelled at the people in front. We're not seating you without all your party here because it's a real crowded place. And they just sat me down. The hostess says, "Where's your other party?" In a very accusatory tone. I wanted to, you know, the old habits. I'd have said, "What the hell's it to you? You know, you refusing me a table?" I said, "Are you telling me my party can't use the bathroom?" "Oh, okay, I'm sorry, sir." But she was going to enforce that rule at that place big time. And my buddy came in, you know, just 30, 60 seconds later, and so I called him up and said, "Where are you at for us?" He says, "Oh, I'm at the front door already." You know. But it's getting in the habit. I wasn't going to answer the question. It's getting in the habit so that when authority does approach you, you don't fall into what we've talked about it many times. You're imprinted, as we all are. Imprinting. A learning mechanism operating very early in the life of an animal, in which an irreversible reaction or learning mechanism is taught. So when it's brought up at later times under the same thing, it just goes into thing. You'll talk to people that raise horses and cats and stuff. You know, little kittens they'll put on their back and rub them and rub their paw. So when they get older, they're used to those kinds of things. They don't freak out when you do it. Same with colts and little horses. And when they're young, they do those kinds of things. So they're not real skittish around people and all sorts of things. Imprinting. We've all been imprinted and brainwashed very effectively. Not because somebody intended to do it to us. It is said, every man has two educations. One he receives from others, and one more important, which he gives himself. Why didn't they tell us this? That's from a book in 1900 called The True Citizen. Get it off the internet. And of course, John Stuart Mill, On Liberty, circa 1850, said anybody that sends their kids to public school is a fool. Well, once I read that, I realized then, and what do you expect the public to do? They're going to teach what they need to do to keep you from hurting yourself. You need to. This knowing just enough to hurt yourself is killing you. So open your minds, get yourselves up to speed, start practicing it everywhere. Anybody asks you anything, learn to do it. One of the brothers over here was telling me, I do this with my girlfriend, and she's like livid at it a little bit, to a degree. Well, when he learns to do it with her so smoothly, she doesn't take offense anymore. Now he's getting good at it. And that's your goal, to do it so smoothly like Brandon did here. Are you a U.S. citizen? There's 100 ways to answer it. What's a U.S. citizen? I'd like the guy to try and explain that one to me. Tell me. Are we talking corporate citizen? Because that's the only one he's got authority over, so I want to get him to that. Are you talking about the one based on 28 U.S.C. 3002, 15A? Or which one? The one pursuant to Hooven and Allison Company versus EVAT, Supreme Court case 1945? Or is it one of those 31 of them that's in the United States Codes annotated? And if it is, which one, brother? He knows he's dealing with somebody with some knowledge, and you'd be surprised. They give a lot of deference. Deference. They pay you respect. What is respect? Avoid intruding upon or interfering with. That's what respect is. Don't interfere or intrude on somebody's contract. They're getting them for you. You got the world, ladies and gentlemen. Brandon is giving you the best administrative process on the planet as we see it today. We've got ones from months ago that aren't that good, and ones from months before that aren't that good, and they're all the same. They work just as effectively if you know how to hold it. Winston Shrout, he doesn't even bother with all this. It's just like Brandon says, 32-cent stamp or 42-cent stamp and an envelope and a handwritten message. Wow. He's a neat guy. There's a lot of neat people out there. We can learn from all of them. And the one thing Brandon and I and Jack don't know, we don't know much. We learn all the time. But the processes are getting easier, and it's you that has to change you. You know, James Allen is such a beautiful read. We can't encourage you. That's a once-a-week read, 27 pages of wonderful philosophy. And then you got to internalize it. Find parts of it you like. You got to get some of this stuff. We don't have much time, Brandon. Did you want to wrap up in a particular way, brother?
No. I was going to put the URL that the documents will be in.
Great.
Let's ask the audience, do you have any questions on what we presented to you this weekend?
I have a question for Brandon.
We'll pass it around. We got a little bit of time, but I know a lot of you,
Yeah.
some of you got to get out of here at 6 sharp. Brandon's got to go, so we're not going to diddle around 6 o'clock, ladies and gentlemen. So for those of you, many of you got my card and numbers. I work with Jack. We do mentorship programs, work on cases. You can reach me at 480-286-3340. We get paid for our work, but sometimes we answer questions and help out a little too, and we'll send you stuff. My Monday nights are free. Jack's stuff is negligible. It's just a guy that does his CDs. Any of that stuff we can get you. Many of you have the card and the email numbers and those kinds of things. So whatever you need to do, you can get a hold of us, reach out to any of us, go on CIC site. Garrett monitors that site. We've got some info there if you need to get a hold of me. So whatever. So let's take some questions. Jack's here, Brandon's here, and I'm here to answer your questions.
I have a question regarding the charge from Jack. If I just bought a house, do I need to wait how long to start doing the set-off, or can I do it right away?
You could do it right away. But remember, do not take on any project before at least you understand some of the basics here. Don't get involved in any project in which you're not going to have time or effort to do it. Some people get involved into so much, like they think they're going to take care of every utility bill with an A for V, and then they're going to take care of their house and their car, and they just totally get overwhelmed. Try it out on something relatively small in size or so to begin with, unless you're behind the 8 ball. I mean, there's no sense if you're in an imminent foreclosure to freeze up and do nothing. I showed you this morning, all you got to do is make a stupid promissory note, and if you deliver it to the right person, at least over a period of time, you're not going to lose permanent title to your property. But people get gung-ho, they jump right in, and I was going to say that Brandon has shown you and is sharing with you some excellent paperwork.
Choose your battles, what he's telling you.
Yes.
Choose them carefully. Learn.
And what I would do is write and author your process all the way through to the end. Think of every possible response or return you can get and write up even how to handle those. And when you feel confident in creating it, not because Brandon's got a mortgage process, I'm just going to put my name on it. Oh, and by the way, just so you guys know, I'm sanitizing these documents, and what I'm going to do, and this is, again, this is just to make it easier so you could spot the places to change things, just because you don't want to leave John Henry Doe in the document. I'm going to change all of it to red, like all the places that absolutely need your attention for changing. But please, please, please don't just go through and change the red, because
Read the
it may
documents.
not be pertinent to your process. Every individual process is different, and they require a different level of attention. They require different facts. They require different elements. What I will have in there, and what I can tell you, is that I told you there's an instruments folder. In the actually, forgot I got control of that computer. In the instruments folder, you will have all the negotiable instruments, bonded promissory notes, money orders, certified payment bond, indemnity bond. For those of you who have not done your birth certificate bond, there'll be a sample birth certificate bond. You'll see in the instruments folder will also be the cover letter that goes with the birth certificate bond. So it'll be labeled like BC bond, BC cover letter. But you also have to you need to at least read that cover letter so you know what else is going to be going in the envelope. Who is it going to be mailed to?
Do your due diligence. Read it all carefully. Get accustomed to it and understand. It's just that simple. And if you can't get to that level, get under a mentorship program, attend a mastery program. I think we're going to get one started on the East Coast. We want to wrap up maybe this one on the West Coast. I'm going to talk to Brand a little whether we're going to start it earlier than that. But if nothing else, just get studying it. Jack's got a bunch. Jack goes into in-depth explanations on Mondays. I have Mondays and do things. It isn't going to be hard for you all to get up to speed quick. Get this stuff out and lay out step 1, step 2, right through step 5 so you can get familiar with it and why and how and what and for nor but yet so. So you can handle it all.
We've covered a lot this weekend, a lot. You'd be surprised the secrets that we've told you. You're going to have to understand them, go through them maybe a number of times. But remember, we've had 3 short days. There's no way that you've got a comprehensive course here. That's why Brandon is doing his 7-month program. For instance, we told you this morning that what you're doing when the straw man is paying back the bank is supposedly you're paying off the principal loan. That is not true. You're paying an insurance policy. Because remember, the bank set up a pooling and servicing agreement after they set up the mortgage loan. And you think you're paying on your note? You're not paying on your note. And that's why you don't get your note back at the end.
We'll get you in the mastery course. You'll pick all these finer details up. You got a good broad brush and some real nice basics, and you got some good programs and stuff that you can use forever.
And the intention of the mastery course is that at the end of that 7-month course, and there's at least 2 gentlemen in here, 3, 4, because Gordon's in the class, John, Jeff, these 2 gentlemen in the back are all part of the mastery course, and they will all, every member of that, which is now over 100 people, will be out teaching and gathering people into groups and committees. Like right now we have a committee dedicated to just handling mortgages. You want to learn the mortgage process so that you can help others, so that you can help yourself? Get in contact with the mortgage committee. You got secured debt or unsecured debt issues? We have an unsecured debt committee, which also handles IRS type issues. So we have groups of people right now that are large groups of people all studying and learning this, and they're learning it at every level. They're spending over a month just on the UCC and learning all the ins and outs of the UCC. they're also getting firm base in the spiritual come from, the ideology of being a creditor. So these...
It's a mastery course. It's very in-depth.
Yeah, it's very...
Get in it or no?
Yes.
You'd have to talk to the members. It's up to them to decide whether or not new people will be let in. I'm merely a facilitator of the course.
Call me unbribable. I'll get you in.
But it's up to them to decide as a group whether or not, and if you're going to get in, you got to get in now. We're already going on the 3rd month, and you've already missed UCC and history, which were 2 huge topics.
We'll let you know. We'll let you know shortly if we're going to have one. I'll fire one up here on the East Coast for you.
No,
all.
the next thing you got to understand is we went through material this weekend. Things can go into your head. We didn't do any practice. If you were called before a judge, an administrative tribunal, if 2 IRS people came and visited you at the home, you have 0 practice from anything we did this weekend. I've toyed around with a couple of people around here, just like in intermission, and almost like tried to charge them just to see how they would come back. In reality, they failed miserably because they're not ready to do this yet. But I mean, are you going to do a foreclosure or you have no problems and then you initiate a set-off and you know the bank is going to try coming back and they're going to try going around your process and getting you to get on their topic instead of them getting on your topic.
You got the paperwork side and what he's telling you, a practical side. So take your time. Some of you are in it already. You may need to get under mentorship, get on the mortgage committee, whatever you think, it can go forward. Just stay diligent at it. Let's move forward with some questions. How much time we have left, Brandon?
We have a little bit of time.
Okay.
I don't think we're too pressed for time.
45 minutes.
Really? That's it?
Yeah, till 6
really
o'clock.
appreciate-
Some of you got to leave at 6 sharp. I know Brandon's got to go. So let's move right along, see if we can keep them going.
I really appreciate all your stories, the successes and the failures. I learned so much from them. But if I could for a minute, I wanted to go back to Brandon's story. The first time I heard that was in L.A., and it was life-changing, really. And Brandon was emotional, and I don't think there was a dry eye in the house. It was a powerful, powerful testimony. And but what I wanted to ask you is that from that, most people who hear that story, who are debtors, would say you were a fool to do that, and they wouldn't see the creditor side of how amazing of a creditor act that was. From your
He thought he was a fool for a while there, so don't worry.
And that's why I bring it up, because you mentioned that. After you admitted, you said, man, I was questioning whether or not I did the right thing. I mean, what am I, stupid? What did I just do, right? And I think the 2 things that really slow me down, and I think most people down, is fear and then looking stupid. And most people identify with the fear part, but they don't really identify with the looking stupid part. And so I think that's part of the fear, that they don't want to look stupid.
He's bringing up a really good point, because they make you're made to feel stupid when they're doing they'll bring you in when you're arrested and they'll say, who's the president? What year is it? And you're thinking, I don't want to seem stupid. And so you tend to want to answer the question. So you got a little bit of stuff to learn, and it's a lot of fun. But that's a really good point, Gordy, to bring up, that's probably as big a thing, because in America, nobody wants to look stupid. So
Well,
we do what we call the male thing. They say, yeah.
You know what the world's greatest fear is? Public speaking.
That is public speaking when you're in front of half a dozen.
It's not
others.
dying. It's public speaking. People would rather die than stand up in front of a group of people and talk. What does that tell you? That people are so consumed with the idea of being wrong, looking bad, that it consumes them with fear. And that is one of the things you will be faced with in everything you do is looking bad. And
can you face the fear of being wrong?
Because they're going to treat you like, what's wrong with you, man? Wait, you're talking crazy, doc. And then we'll put you in a medical cell room, and you'll feel like I'm in it. We had one of our clients in San Francisco. He says that they put me in a crazy room, all white, and put me in a suit for that, paper suit for it. He said, man, I felt really stupid. I said, what'd you do? He said, well, they came at midnight, and so I just gave it to them. I said, so they really bugged you, huh? Well, no, they just came at midnight and wanted my picture and stuff, and I didn't want to be there. He was telling me that, I just felt dumb and, like they thought I was crazy, and he really would rather have gone back into the matrix. And this guy's going down. Mm-hmm. This guy's on a state deal. He was one of our guys we had on the program over domestic abuse, and he's a pretty serious domestic abuser. He had a chance to really do it. He was getting along with wife, and he lost his temper again, and then for the second time, and he didn't feel worthy. And they do such cool things. I'll try not to bore you too much. We just had a recent student of ours. His name is Michael. He's up in Wisconsin, and he put in his abatement and said, look, expect a potential arrest. It's going to be a test for you. They came to arrest him. Same 2 police officers that came the year before. And they said, Michael, we're really sorry. We have to arrest you. We know last time we were here at your mother's funeral, and this is not a good time, and I know it wasn't then, but we know you're not
going to run.
You're
and
not
we're
a flight
going to
risk.
put handcuffs on
So
you.
we're not going to put handcuffs on you.
We'll take you out for a filet mignon, and maybe not.
That's the only thing they didn't say. They said, we won't put cuffs on you. We know you're not a flight risk, and that was an offer. Michael, we're going to arrest you. There's your offer. And all he heard was, we're not going to cuff you because we know you're an honorable man. And you know what his response was? Thank you.
Yeah, let's go.
Yeah.
Let's go. That's what his offer was. Michael, you're under arrest. We really hate to arrest you. And all the other rhetoric. And then they said, we're not going to put cuffs on you because we know you're not a flight
What's wrong with
risk.
Conditional acceptance upon proof of claim that?
Jack? So we're going to have to arrest you, Jack. We know we were here last year. It was a tough time for you, your mother's funeral. We know you're not a flight risk, brother. And so we're not going to put cuffs on you.
Oh. Well, I conditionally accept that proof of claim that we do not have an unresponded to abatement in. And at this time, I condition on proof of claim that the court has denied the abatement.
What abatement are you talking about?
I conditionally accept that proof of claim that you can't go to the record system and ask the court whether or not the process of the arrest has not been abated.
Well, we just have our orders, Michael. Jack, we just have our orders to arrest you. We're here to arrest you, and that's all we know.
I conditionally accept that proof of claim that you don't have a radio to contact your supervisor to contact the court.
I've got a radio, but we have to arrest you.
I conditionally accept that proof of claim that you have not been noticed, that I believe the record upon which you are operating is probably an old record, and on request that you double check and update your record.
He could say 100 things. You've got to be ready for these things. Not thank you.
Well, after they are given notice, don't they have a fiduciary duty of due care, et cetera, to check it out?
Does the government always do it right? Or if he just told you they got a fiduciary duty to check it out, are they not going to check it out? Him and I had a client. We've had a client. Got a vacate notice from the sheriff, order from the court, conditionally accepted it. She's still in the house today. I'm telling you, the world's not what you think. But you've got your paperwork side, you've got your practical side. Some of you are going to be doing paperwork. Understand, they're going to phone call you, you know that. Or they're going to send some more letters. Or they're going to have a new servicing agent send. Or something. Get a little familiar with this. It's really not going to be too difficult. So I know it sounds kind of maybe a little scary, but don't feel bad about looking stupid. My first time was, even when I went into court on my first, on revocation of hearing, I'm here today as the authorized representative. I said a few things, and the judge got into it after about minute 3 or 4. He says, Mr. Hall, I suggest you get an attorney before you hurt yourself. I says, are you telling me I can't resolve this matter? Of course, I had my notes, Big Jack, and Jack had put me some nice notes. I'd done it with Jack. I said, are you telling me I can't resolve this matter without an attorney receiving public benefits? He goes, no. And I go, because I don't know what to say, because I don't know what I was doing. And he didn't tell me what was going on either. But that's the truth. I didn't get arrested or anything because I kept the questions coming. But there's a time for questions, time for conditional acceptances. I didn't fully understand it. And so us three have come to develop the principles that underlie it that are so simple. It's just so easy now to know what's going on. It's just an offer. So what we want to get you to do is you can understand that you need a repertoire of conditional acceptances. Jack just did a beautiful. I can do Brandon. He comes off with them just like you can do me. It doesn't matter whether it's that or half a dozen of them on proof of claim that you can identify the accused.
Oh,
or what Christ said. Michael could have said, sayest thou this thing of thyself, or did others tell it thee of me? Are you accusing me? Or behold, here I am, witness against me?
On proof of claim, the man standing before you is that name on your piece of paper for arrest.
That's only one of the 375,000 he could give me. But see, he comes back with the conditional acceptance on proof of claim or on condition
Which
that.
displaces their offer to take you into arrest.
Now, keep in mind, when dealing with most, especially public servants like officers, they have no idea that it's all contracting.
Sure.
They may have no idea, but they're not far from it.
But the word moves up. Like when I was facing my issue, these guys in the jail, they had no idea it was all contract. That's why they had no problem beating me up and sticking me in a refrigerator. They had no problem with that.
Not with smart mouths.
Word got to the judge how I handled myself. Judge wouldn't even let me in the courtroom. Case was disappeared because of how I handled myself.
He passed the test.
So
Yeah, Brent, when
you may not be dealing with them at the lower levels, but it eventually will escalate up to the upper levels.
You have sergeants and lieutenants at the police department that have run into people like us all over the place. And they do know enough about it that they need jurisdiction. The lower level officers may not have a real good grasp on it, but they've heard this stuff too.
Hey, Garrett, why don't you tell us about when you did the ride-along? When you were in ATF, you did the ride-along with the police officer, and you guys got the guy on DUI, which in California, DUI is what most states call DWI. And they had pulled this guy over, and he was clearly drunk, and this would have been his third offense.
So when
Now,
I was
now
working,
you're with the ATF at that time, Sal?
Yes.
Okay.
So I was working at the ATF at the time, and one of my dad's buddies says, "Hey, why don't you come on a ride along with me? Check it out. See if you like the state PD." Because I was thinking about a transfer, and so I went on this ride along, and we get behind this guy, and he's not only is he speeding, he's swerving, he's all over the place. He really was kind of completely reckless. Well, we pull him over. And this guy was so drunk. No beer cans fell out of the car, but you've seen those like jokes where someone opens the car door and beer cans start falling out, and it's pretty obvious. But he opens the door, and the officer gives him all the tests. And this guy, it was his third offense, and he was properly schooled in how to handle a DUI. The guy said, the officer says, "Okay, I'm going to do these tests with you." Well, the guy kind of went along with the field sobriety, thinking maybe if he passed it, he'd be let go. Well, he didn't pass, and then the officer said, "Okay, what we want to do is we're going to do a breathalyzer, okay?" And the guy goes, "I just got to call out the breathalyzer, like the DUI team. There's actually teams, officers that's all they handle." So it took about 15, 20 minutes. We're sitting there. The DUI guys come up, and the guy goes, "Nah, I don't think I'm going to do the breathalyzer." He said, "I choose blood." They go, "Well, we're going to have to take you in." He goes, "That's fine. Let's go." And so we another 30 minutes goes by. We get him back to the station. They finally get him through. Then he says, nah, they finally get the blood person into the room. And they said, this is after another 20 minutes. I mean, this guy's sobering up as we go. And then he says, I think I'm going to do urine. Urine, yeah, that's it, urine. I want to do urine. So the cops go, okay, man, so you want to do urine then? So he goes, yep, it's urine. So then he goes in and he sits in the bathroom for probably like 10 minutes, and the officer's just standing behind him knowing he's not going to go. And he finally says, I can't go. Let's go with the breathalyzer again. I think I'm ready for that. Well, anyways, he dicked around for a while, and finally he says, you know what? I take it all back. He goes, you know what? I don't really like the way you guys are treating me. I want to see my lawyer. I'm not doing anything. Just refused it. And then we're walking away, and at the time I was working for a law enforcement agency, and I'm thinking, what? How does he just get to say no? Like, don't we have some, thinking that I had authority, just like anybody else would have some kind of authority, right? And he's like, this guy's gonna walk. I said, what do you mean he's gonna walk? He goes, whoever schooled this guy schooled him well. He said, realistically, he's gonna be held in the drunk tank and he'll end up walking. I had no idea what had happened. And then Brandon later, I have told this story over the years, and Brandon brought it up, and he goes, you remember that one guy? I mean, he knew how to challenge the system. Now, was he a creditor? No. But, it just goes to show you that, if you have some kind of education on the system, how far you can actually go with it. And I'm not advocating that behavior, because in Huntington Beach, they'll strap you down and take the blood regardless. Against your own will, for sure, but they will. So you got to keep that in mind too. Did I miss anything?
Nope, that's about it. I wanted to show that the contractual nature and how the officer he was riding with knew to an extent that if they don't consent, there's nothing we can do. So the officer that he was with happened to be more experienced than some officers that are out there. Some officers, like Garrett, who was a federal law enforcement officer, think they have the authority to do whatever they need to do. And the officers that I faced in Kern County, they thought they had the authority to do whatever they needed to do. They had the authority to beat me up, stick me in a refrigerator, force me into giving them fingerprints and a picture. Now, when the story of what happened in the jail got to the judge, clearly they didn't have the authority to do what they did. That if I'm convinced they had word for word my conditional acceptance of their offer to give them fingerprints, because they came in and asked me 35 times. And the response, unwavering, was the same each time.
Which was?
I conditionally accept granting and conveying to you a security interest in my property upon the condition that you present me with a bona fide claim and or consideration. Each officer responded with, huh? Or what? Except for the sergeant. The sergeant, he's a little brighter than most. He says, what kind of consideration? I'm like, whoa, opportunity to contract. I'm all right, here we go. And I totally sold myself short on this one. I go, $10,000. I'm like, I kicked myself in the butt right after that. I'm like, $10,000? I'm going to give up my body for $10,000? Well, I'm a cheap date.
I was in prison one time, and they couldn't get it out of me. In jail and at the end there, and made the same similar offer. And the guy says, how about an extra tray of food? I said, what do you offer me? He says, how about a tray of food? They do understand, and they're more and more hearing about it.
Did you go for it? I imagine a guy like you go for an extra tray of food.
I'm no cheap date, and I don't sell out for no $10,000 either. But they won't give you $10,000. They won't give you $10.
They wouldn't even give me 25 cents.
They don't do that. But $10,000 is not going to happen. They offered a quarter. He flipped him a quarter probably, and then go take him because he's got a deal. But for $10,000, he's not going to do it.
Hey, Brandon, are these going to be available for sale? tapes, the DVDs?
The DVDs will eventually. Right now I'm behind on my DVDs. That's why I didn't even do any pre-sale of them.
Okay,
If you get, what we'll do is when they are available, get a hold of Garrett and he'll make sure that you can get them at a discount. Because when they go up on the website, they'll just be full price. But everyone who's here, Garrett has a list of everyone here. And if you contact Garrett, he'll give you it for half off.
Ballpark time?
Well,
You think?
I would say it'll be over a month. It'll be probably 2 months before I get the video up. The audio will probably be up a little faster, but the video will probably be about 2 months. Because right now my schedule's booked up ridiculous, and I actually have to sit down and render the video, cut it up, put it together. It's a process to get the video done, and I can't afford to have someone else do it for me anymore. It was I was actually losing money on DVDs having other people do it for me, so I've now had to take it on as a task for myself, and it's time-consuming. And I just, right now, because I'm booked up for the next couple months, I don't see it. It'll take probably at least a whole day to put it all together, and literally that's how full my schedule is. I don't have a full day. And I have, in front of this one, Atlanta and my April Living Temple from this year that I still haven't done the video for. So those 2 videos are on cue in front of this video. So, so this is third in line when I get the other 2 done, and then I'll get this one done.
Other questions?
Question for Jack also. Why do the mortgage companies move the loan so many times? They're always moving it around.
Well, they're dealing with a pooling and servicing company right now, and that's insurance. And so your monthly payment is going to insurance.
Why does it move around?
Well, it moves around an awful lot because a lot of the patriots are putting pressure on some of these contracts. And they need to move those things around to limit liability. Plus, most banks every 2 and 3 years change hands anyway. So
in these economic times of collapsing of banks, as the changes are coming, so merges and put together and change over to here and et cetera is why you're seeing it.
When you understand that your monthly payment is going to insurance, what usually happens when you don't pay your insurance? You lose your benefits. Okay? Well, the pooling and servicing agreement is insurance. And the reason they move to insurance is so many principals are defaulting on their payments for their notes that the banks aren't trying to collect on the notes anymore. They've sold the ability to collect on the notes to insurance companies. And so they've moved the money that you send them into paying the insurance premiums. And when you don't make 2 or 3 insurance premium payments, you lose your benefit. And that means that your house is sold and the value of the sale of the house goes into the insurance company so that the insurance company now has a stronger position against all the other mortgages that they're insuring. And it's simple admiralty maritime. They're moving these contracts from law of the land and repaying principal into buying insurance through the pooling agreement so that they guarantee that the insurance company is going to keep the bank solvent because the principals are not. And so that's what you're seeing. So since you're not paying for your mortgage anymore, the principal amount you owe, when you're done paying off the contract, the insurance stops. You don't have a duty to the insurance company anymore, but you haven't paid off your note, so you don't get your note back. So if you really want your note back, you got to pay the bank a second time to redeem the note. And then if you're going to be on the asset side, you got to pay the underwriter for the use of the Federal Reserve notes. So in reality, you got to pay him 3 times to redeem the property. But once you do that, you should have an allodial holding in the property if you know how to do it.
Other questions?
Do you pay them 3 times the amount or 3 different times?
You've got to pay 3 times the amount, but see, if you're doing it Brandon's way, don't pay them, go to the IRS. And then for the IRS, remember he said on your 1040V, leave the amount open. but instruct them to take care of all the accounts.
So you pay once, but the 1040 fee left blank, they'll put it in for 3 times the amount. Hold your mud, you should be all right.
And you could, on a mortgage like that, one of the instruments on there, you guys, whenever there's an amount that's uncertain, like criminal court case, or even in this case, a mortgage, where the amount really could be uncertain, the certified payment bond is designed in such a way that it's for up to a certain amount, and it is to be filled in by the IRS when they receive it for the exact amount of unpaid obligations. So let's presume that it's at least 3 times the amount of the original mortgage. So you would take the certified payment bond, make it for 3.5 times what the original mortgage was, and send that in as the instrument, because I've noticed that A for V's on mortgages don't go through. And it may be, and it may be because, for one, there may be multiple parties to pay, and there may be a lot more than the amount of the original mortgage to discharge. So maybe putting in something like the certified payment bond to IRS for 3.5 times the amount. And then if you're doing like a criminal case, you would want to make sure that it's an increment of maybe $100 million per felony, or maybe $30 million per felony, whatever. We've kind of toyed with different numbers before, but basically if they don't come back and respond that it's insufficient, then it's sufficient. So a rule of thumb I like to do is $30 million per charge on a criminal if it's felony.
But understand,
charges.
if you put tendered as full satisfaction of the claim, either on the instrument itself or in accompanying documentation conspicuously, can you hold your contract?
Or if they come back and say, no, that's not enough, then you can agree to pay the rest. But they got to come back one way or the other. They'll remain silent, in which case you've got a contract, or they'll come back and again suggest there's a problem. Remember, when they come back, the 2 things you got to do. First of all, review your process. Did I do it right or wrong? Or are they trying to knock me off my rock? Am I exactly correct, but they're trying to get me to lose faith and argue? But another issue on the criminal process, and we've seen it time and time again, is the criminal process is an additional claim or penalty. And if you're going to set it off, settle, and close it, you've got to go back and resolve the original civil problem that created the criminal penalty.
It's helpful if you do, but again, if you can hold your own, you're going to be fine. You
But
get that original
if they come back to the original, or they raise it in the issue,
Yes.
you cannot be a creditor in the criminal and a debtor in the civil. For instance, the guy
Agreed.
that we used this weekend, he was in there criminally on the OID. He was getting that set off, but then the judge says, well, what are you going to do about the $2.5 million you still owe the IRS?
This is a $5 million OID. They snagged 2.5 in the bank. He'd already burned through $2.5 million of OID money, and so the judge had given him a warning. What about the 2.5? So what Jack is telling you is simply, yeah, he's got the criminal charges, which were set off by banker's acceptance with merely a signature, and he was given an opportunity to come back and fix the underlying civil dishonor.
Which he refused to do. So can you be a creditor in one and a debtor in the other and be a creditor overall? The answer is no.
They told him about 3
linked the
times.
civil with the criminal, and he refused to resolve the civil.
And even after he went to court, they sent a guy around probation 3 times. Would you help us with this? And he says, can the court order me to do it, or something to that effect? Yeah. And they said, no, we can't order you. Okay, then I'm not going to help. Again, this gentleman lost sight. He was just sentenced to 71 months the other day. That was Thursday. And all of his friends now realize the disability of going with dishonor, because we tried to get him to, look, just pay the $2.5 million. And then they told me the other day after the thing, oh, now I see what you're saying.
Now, it's interesting because they had chosen a route where they did not have to take responsibility. They chose not to see because they chose to be debtors. They wanted and were very much embracing the idea that someone else is going to handle this for me, and I don't have to be responsible. All we have to do is give them money, and they're going to file magic papers. And guess what? Magic papers didn't do the trick. And now, now we see, we've been telling you for 6 months, but now you see.
And how do we know they're debtors also, besides our boy in jail? Because of their comments. It was just a big stage and a big show, and it was all a witch hunt.
Yeah.
No, it wasn't.
Not taking
We're saying they're
responsibility.
telling you in black and white. They came around and told you, are you blind? Yes. And this group was blind.
Yeah, exactly. All they had to
Pay
do
the
was an
$2.5
administrative
million
process to pay the $2.5 million.
Show and honor. That's all they had to do. Fix the underlying. We've done it with lots of our guys. All the guys we pulled out of jail, we went in and fixed the underlying civil dishonor. Whether it was contempt or this recent federal case with Bob Lester that was on last Monday night, did we get these students on and they tell you? Yeah, we did what Jack Gordon and Brandon told us to do, and it worked out beautifully. I'm out, and it's because of what they did is why I'm out. They'll tell you that.
Didn't Brandon say that basically all you need to do is stay in honor, tender the payment? We have no problems. We've only given you solutions this weekend. It's that easy.
What's the definition of a problem?
That's what they create in their own mind because they invent stories based on incidents.
A question to be solved. That's all it is. Mm-hmm. That's what a problem is. A question to be solved.
We've given you such a simple remedy that the average party that has been out there trained as a debtor his whole life goes, oh, it can't be that simple. Everybody'd be out of jail. Well, that's why they're in jail, because they don't realize it's that simple.
Well, and also they're there because they conduct themselves in their lives as debtors. They don't take responsibility. You know, they choose.
It's from the come from. That's where it's got to start.
Yeah. So there is definitely no possibility or probability that all the criminals out there are going to get their hands on some paperwork and free themselves, because their conduct will land them right back where they started.
The practical side. What's going to happen if we put the paperwork and the judge brings them forms? I see you want out. What do you want out for?
Right there.
Why do you want out of jail, Mr. Smith? I've gotten this paperwork here. Can you explain to me what this is about?
I conditionally accept that proof of claim that the record does not show that there is a set-off on the claim in favor of the United States.
In favor of who? The United States? He's talking about helping someone else. What did Brandon tell you earlier in the thing? What was that little section in this? To help the public debt. It wasn't for him. One of my recent guys, I said, why is it? It was Bob that just got out of jail. He's going into supervised release. He says, man, I don't want to be doing this. This is like crazy to do this. I don't have a life. I said, what is it you want to do? He says, I don't want to have to do all this. I had all the people on Monday, and I said, Bob, tell everybody why you want to settle the supervised release. He says, so I don't have to do it. I said, wrong. I thought you were going to tell the right one. I've been working with him. I said, what's the right answer? He goes, huh? I said, is it not so that the supervised release probation doesn't have to be burdened with taking care of somebody when they got enough people to take care? Oh, yeah, you're right.
Oh, yeah, that's it.
Okay.
But no, he understood it. He had just forgotten. But you have to get it into your mind what Brandon and Jack are telling you.
Creditors help others. Debtors are in it for themselves. Oh, I want to get out of an obligation. Beep, wrong.
Why do you want to settle your mortgage? Isn't it to help lessen the national debt? Wouldn't that be a good reason?
That's what I'm in it for.
Well, there it is. It's not to get out of payments.
If you
it's to
help
lessen
them, they help you. If it's about helping yourself, they're going to help themselves. You lead, they follow. How do they help themselves? They take your home, they put you in jail, they take your kids away from you, you don't get your way. So just demonstrate to those people that you're in it for yourself and see how they respond. Give you an example. A guy was involved in a criminal case. He did all of the right things, A for V, set everything else off, had a record. They found the straw man guilty at trial. They went to sentencing. The judge is up there in sentencing. He says, do you have anything to say before I sentence you? The guy stood up. Yeah, I conditionally accept on proof of claim that the record does not show set-off, settlement, and closure. The judge says, sit down. That's stupid and crazy. He immediately sentenced the defendant to like 5 years in prison. Then the judge says, we're going to take a rest on this. I want the courtroom cleared. Marshals, did you hear me? Clear the courtroom except for the defendant. I'm going back in chambers. I'll be out in a minute. They cleared the courtroom. They locked the door. The defendant's sitting here going, what's going on now? The judge came out in his street clothes, walked up where the bench where the guy was sitting, and he sat down right opposite the guy. And the judge looks him in the eye and says, what can I do for you?
What is it you want?
What is it you want? What did our hero say to the judge?
Is he a debtor or a creditor? Let me know. Before, I guess.
He's a debtor.
Oh, he's a debtor? Oh, then he said, I want you to release me.
That's exactly what he said.
Exactly what the judge said. What he said. The judge stood up and he said to the marshals, take this man out of here. He's serving his 7-year sentence. If he doesn't like what I'm doing, he can appeal it. The judge disappeared in chambers. The guy's in prison. What should he have said?
What would you say, Mr. Smith? What do you want?
I conditionally accept, Your Honor, on proof of claim that we have not set off, settled, and closed it in favor of the government. If there's anything else I can do to help set this off for the government, I await your instructions.
What can I do for you?
I'm here to help you. I'm not here begging you for my freedom.
I told you all a story about Susie that we got out of jail. She's in there, had records that she couldn't give. She'd been in there over 2 years, 27 months, can't get out, in for life if she doesn't fix this contempt. The contempt was, we want these records. They don't exist anymore. They bring her in every quarter. Do you got the records? They don't exist. I can't give them to you. I don't know what to do.
Is she making a statement? Is she making an excuse? Sounds like a debtor to me.
She hooks up with me. I say, listen.
It's irrelevant that they don't exist and it's impossible to bring them. She's making a statement and an excuse.
I said, Susie, your new mantra is, how can I help you now? She went into a couple of hearings. Got accused. You're not giving us. You haven't been doing this. You're not cooperating. And she just go what she's told. She said, I don't know why. I just did what you said. How can I help you now? That's all we did. And then when the IRS put in a denial and this and that for this, we conditionally accepted and asked how we could help now. Within a week, she was out. Now, Susie, being the wonderful polemist she was, she only tried it because she said, I tried 200 things. I might as well try yours, Gordon. They wanted $47,000 from her. I said, pay him. I'm not going to pay him $47,000. The court didn't order it. I said, are you out of ink? Are you crazy? Give it to him. Well, why should I? The court didn't order it. I said, do what you want. A couple after warnings, this, and this. Our young lady, here we are 6 months fast forward, she's been indicted. I said, you got an attorney? She says, yeah. I said, well, keep me posted how it goes. Gee, I could make money on this one. I got big dollars, says she's gone. Guaranteed she's gone. She just won't accept the basics. She only did that because she said, man, I tried a couple hundred things, 27 months, and it was unbelievable to her. She said, I might as well try what you were saying, Gordon. I said, why did you do what I tell you to do? She said, I might as well. You know, I knew you from the old days, real estate. I'm a big real estate developer and success. And she goes, I just knew you'd done a lot of good things, so I just did it. No belief, couldn't learn nothing, but at least she was smart enough to get out and have at least a little bit of fun for about 6 months. So dear Susie will very shortly be rejoining her cellmates again, and this time she'll, nice.
Gordon was telling you about the guy that on Friday contacted us and said, I got a report to go to prison on Monday. What can I do? And Gordon said, well, why don't you wait until Monday morning and we'll give you the answer. Why get in touch with us so early on Friday?
I said, why didn't you wait till Monday to call me?
I mean, you're rushing things, you know. And so we said, okay, you're going to put in an abatement so that you can go back and settle this. And he told you about how that went in. And nobody came and arrested him on Monday, but the attorney that was already terminated, the public attorney, he got really excited and said, oh, you better go in. They're going to arrest you. You can't do this. And, oh, it's okay. Just settle down, attorney. And we put in the abatement, and he was putting in he has an ink pen. He can write an instrument. If he can do that, he can set off an account, because after all, if they're going to deposit a body in a prison, why are they depositing a body in a prison? Currency. Because he's a certificate of deposit. If he can replace the money that his body is as a certificate of deposit and give him some other equivalent funds, then he doesn't have to go in to underwrite the security of this debt. So all he's got to do is pay off an account. So we're going to this guy. We said, just tell him you're going to pay the amount and put in, and then show them that you started your process. So he's got this all done, and he's got it in front of the judge. And do you know what the judge writes back? Everything this guy is doing is silly, stupid, crazy. Well, he thinks he can pay off a criminal case. This guy's so lunatic, he thinks it's civil. And besides that, he's on appeal.
Now, this was an order that came out Tuesday, not Monday. He was supposed to have been in jail Monday. We're in back and forth with the judge. Says, I'm ordering, you're crazy, you're nuts. The fact stuff, we're gonna kick him out, this and that. Oh, by the way, you got an appeal going. You're out on bond.
What is that on Tuesday? It's an offer by the judge, which is a counteroffer to his request for time to fix it.
And he's giving him notice that there's a public benefit outstanding in the form of an appeal.
See, because Gordon called me up and said, this is what the judge said. And I started laughing, and I said, guy never told us he was on appeal. When you're on appeal, you're looking for a public benefit. Who's on appeal, the straw man or the living man? Straw man. So the straw man is running the case, and he steps in to try to run it as a creditor. You can't have a debtor and a creditor on that same case. So what did the judge tell him? If you drop your appeal, then you won't be insane. So we came back and we said, the judge just told you, drop your damn appeal, resubmit your paperwork, you're good to go. And you know what the guy says? Oh man, I'm staying with my mom, and she's 85 years old, and they're going to arrest me, and they're going to take her in because she's harboring a criminal. I can't do this. I'm going to report to prison. We're going, let me get this straight. Your mom's 85. You're going in for 20 years. You're never going to see her again. So you're more interested in making sure your mother doesn't get arrested tomorrow, which nobody's going to do, and you're never going to see her and help her in her old age. You're going to think that's going to be a better son? And yet, no faith.
He says, you know what? I'm just going to go down to the probation office tomorrow where I was supposed to report, and I'm going to take the birth certificate down there and surrender it. What do you think's going to happen? I said, you're going to be history. He said, why? I said, your body's up on bond. They're going to take it into custody. I said, all you got to do is A for V the bond and rescind the signature on the appeal. That's all. I didn't sign any appeal. I said, you have an attorney? The attorney filed the appeal? Yeah. Then you signed it. Oh, okay. I said, that's all you got to do. It'll take you 20 minutes to do the paperwork. He had all the stuff. He's doing real good. He went down the next morning at 9 o'clock with his brother. He gave him the birth certificate. I'm going to see him in a long time from now, maybe.
What did Brandon say?
He's gone.
As simple as your remedy is, criminals are not going to take it. Because they're debtors.
Absolutely.
You got a billionaire in jail right now. He's staring at 50 years. Paid $80 million in attorney fees. He could have us. We got a record. They checked us out. Overcome every objection. But he's just holding on to the attorneys. And this attorney's saying the best I can get you is 50, 75 years. That's all we can do for you. Okay, but just keep trying.
I'll give you another 10 million.
It's the most amazing. The other, his buddy that's in there, the Jacques was with him. His buddy's in there. He's looking at 20 big ones. He's going to take the 20. It's the most unique thing I've ever seen. Let's see, I'm 55 or 60 years old. I could take 20 years.
Get out at 75
I could
or
actually,
80.
I could actually go for this and maybe do nothing. You're like, like 55,
But he's afraid of
60
getting 5 extra years. I mean, getting out at 80 is much better than getting out at 85. I mean, there's a lot of life to live 80 to 85.
This guy that did this deal that we're talking about, that didn't report and stuff, it was the most amazing thing, because on day 2, Monday is supposed to report. Day 2, the attorney called again and said, if you don't report, the judge is going to put out an arrest warrant. What did he just sail him?
Oh, there's an oil leak in the Gulf.
There's no arrest warrant.
He told him that there was no arrest warrant by saying he's going to put out, I believe he's probably going to put out an arrest warrant. He just said there was no arrest warrant. There would only be one reason no arrest warrant, if you were supposed to report the day before. You had a contract that they were honoring. What a beautiful thing.
Yeah, if you're supposed to report, the arrest warrant goes out the minute you don't report.
Within an
3-4 days later.
Unless you're on a substitution contract, which nullifies
right, unless you're on a substitution contract. But
and he was. This guy, I said, Larry, you can't do this. Don't do this. You can walk. I said, I'm talking to him Tuesday night. I said, you got to talk to Jack. So we get Jack on in the morning. Jack tries. That's the best we could do. He said, I'm going down. I said, see you later.
See you later.
He said, you really think it's going to happen? I said, how much money you got to bet? I said, I'm not trying to be negative, brother. Your history. The judge told you in black and white. We're going to take all this stuff off you, fax the 2 forms, or do this. He said, I don't read it that way. I said, I understand you don't. I said, do you understand that you don't have an arrest warrant out? Do you understand nobody's come for you? You're over at your mother's home. You're talking to them. They're calling you over there. Nobody's coming to get you. You think the feds don't come get a
felon who hasn't checked in, who hasn't showed up to prison?
But
no, we'll just wait till he gets here. Should be here any day now.
It's amazing, when the scriptures say you have eyes that can't see and ears that can't hear. This isn't just these guys. Now on the converse side, we have people like our 2 docs and other people that go out there with faith, and they do it and they pull it off, and then they change, and then we got ones that go out there and just do it and walk.
Excuse me. Could we
do you have a license to copy that copyrighted material?
I conditionally accept your your offer upon proof of claim that that is copyrighted. No.
You get to ask your question. You did much better this time.
Okay,
go ahead.
Thank you.
That's the way you start your questions. You can go, I condition. She's getting time to think, and she's thinking, what can I come up with?
And it doesn't have to be always I conditionally accept. If you start to sound like a robot, you're going to put yourself out there. A conditional acceptance is as simple as, well, if you do this, I'll agree to do that. That's a conditional acceptance.
By
merely starting the sentence with if.
The attorney says to you, I'm your public defender. I conditionally accept. You can go, if you accept private compensation payment, okay. That's a conditional acceptance.
Yep. Or it could be as simple
notwithstanding this or not, there's 150 ways to say that one.
Yeah, and same with putting the question in. Have it start with the word is. Is there? Or is this? And by just merely starting the sentence that way, you've made it into a question. So you're really in confession and avoidance at that point. Remember, is this your signature on the document? Is there a defect in that instrument?
I conditionally accept on proof of claim there's not a defect in it. Is there a defect? It's just that simple. We want you to kind of get fluid so as you hear this stuff and do it, because you don't want to sound robotic and kind of silly sometimes, but you'll learn to get the hang of it. It's just like practicing anything that you've ever become proficient at. Playing basketball, driving a car, knitting, washing dishes, loading a dishwasher. Really, it becomes not overly difficult. For you guys that are loading dishwashers, it's not that difficult.
I have one more question.
Go
If
ahead,
you
go ahead.
remembered your question, you can
Yeah, I'm
ask
trying
it.
to ask a question, and it's past 6 o'clock. If I could get this
We're good
quick
at
question
confessing
on.
and avoiding.
You're going to, I hope not. I want to back up. Just probably about a half hour ago, you said a certified payment bond. What is a certified payment bond? Is there a notary involved in that? And do you have an example of a certified
I have an example.
payment bond?
A notary would be involved if you were making presentment of that instrument.
And for clarification, do you need to have your birth certificate done?
This
before you do that?
particular one, is it on there? Oh, there it is. Okay.
So what makes it a certified payment bond?
See this particular, and actually, I guess I should have told you guys. You will notice the structure of this bond. It actually is designed in such a way that it's made for a specific kind of bond paper. Okay, so that's why it's kind of, if you want to just dress it up, put your own borders on it or whatever, you can do that. But the actual, when I print them up, they look much different than this because they're being printed on something that's already got borders and background on it. But it doesn't have to be like this. It could just be the wording of it. And you'll notice this one, I'm including this particular one because the registered information at the top, this was designed so that you could carry it in somewhere. Because most of the time we're registering our instruments under registered mail. But this one was designed because my friend was going to carry it into an IRS office. But we still wanted to have it as a registered instrument. So you'll notice the registration information at the top is under the UCC. So it says registered, California Secretary of State, UCC document number and UCC filing number. So most of them, all the other bonds you'll see, will have just the registered mail number up there under registered. And remember, this is for up to an amount. So it's $100,000. And you'll notice there's a little box down here for filling in the amount due. Okay? And this one, the way it's designed is the collateral are an indemnity bond and a set-off bond that you have on deposit with the Treasury. Okay? However, it can be rewritten so that it's merely drawn on your asset account. Okay, and you'll notice I have some surety bonds in there that are just off of your asset account. This particular one was just designed off of those collateral bonds.
The asset account is your DTC account. Generally, the birth certificate is the overall bond, but you access the overall amount 1/10 at a time by the red numbers on the back of your up to 10 Social Security cards.
We'll get into that at another one. Any other questions?
We didn't get the bond paper.
The specially designed with the border, GOES lithography, that's GOES, and that one's designed for their 8.5 by 14. I use, if you guys want to see a sample of the one I use for these bonds, you can come back and see my patent of nativity. Actually, I'm just going to grab it right now and show it to you. You can put it on legal paper and change the design up because it.
Again, legal paper doesn't change the fact that it's a bond. If you don't have an eagle on it, doesn't change the fact that it's a bond.
Yeah, it doesn't.
What's a bond?
Doesn't need to have an eagle.
It's a written instrument.
In fact,
a written obligation to pay specified sums to do or not do specified things. It's nice when Brandon's real meticulous about his paperwork and anal about how everything looks, and it's nice. No, there's not. It can be, but he'll tell you.
See, this
it works the same way on a regular piece of paper.
And see, this surety bond is designed to just be on a piece of paper by itself. And this surety bond, I believe, is even more plain Jane than that. Oh, no. That one's a much more complex one. So
There has been some suggestions by Gene Keating, who's done a lot of research on Admiralty. All of these documents are going into Admiralty Maritime Equity. The suggestion is strongly that they be watermarked.
Yeah.
because admiralty is where the watermark reaches, and if it's on watermarked paper, it will be accepted. Technically, if it is not, it will not be. There should be at least, 22 or 24 pound paper?
When I do it on my own white paper, like this surety bond, I would do it on 32 pound, 100% cotton watermarked paper. This is the bond design that other bond gets printed on. And I forget the serial number of this, but if you go through their website, you'll see this particular bond design. It has this little window on the back as well. And you'll notice there's actually 2 pages to this payment bond because it also prints this back part as well. Yeah, I would recommend laser if you've got laser. And see, you'll see the page 2 is just that piece right there, and that would print in there. I don't sign it. Yeah, I sign it. Don't sign the bond?
Yeah. No, that is not signed.
Well, because it's a Word document. It's not a scan or anything. It's just a Word document that you would print and then sign it. Yeah, GOES, goes, lithography.
Brendan?
Lithagraphy?
What? Lithography? Litho, Litho, graphy, graphy.
You understand as you go up in the world of finance that there is specific papers that are dealt with at high levels all of the time. And there's companies that put out these papers, and when you call them up, they ask what you want. If you say, well, I don't know, what have you got? Click.
So that paper is watermarked?
Yes, and I even do my money orders. I showed you the money order document yesterday. I even do my money orders on 32-pound watermarked 100% cotton paper because it's an instrument. All instruments should be on watermarked 100% cotton. And 32-pound is the standard I use for all instruments. Yeah, I get it at Staples. I get the white, the plain white. The one with the border that I just showed you, that's from Ghost. But the plain white, I just get the 32-pound from Staples.
They're not numbered, are they?
Yeah, you generate your own numbers for the instruments.
American printing, we couldn't order them.
American printing, you couldn't order what?
They had all one paper, but they wouldn't number it.
Really?
Yeah, and they would number it. It's like birth certificates on that.
Oh.
It's legal size?
I tried to get the register sticker from the post office, and they don't give it to us. How we can get those? What's the process? Because
I get mine by just going to the post office and going. I actually, when I go, I get an entire roll of them. They give me like 500,000 of them at a time.
You're just going to have to try different post offices. Some of them will be nasty. They won't give you just small ones. It depends on the postmaster.
In real, I mean, actually, you should hear Garrett's got a great story about going to the post office one day too.
And then all you have to do is tell them, you go to the counter and tell them you want to do registered mail, right? Yeah. And they get the sticker, say, hey, let me go over here and finish my document. Right? Then just take it.
Just take it.
I do.
Brandon?
Yeah.
Brandon, over here. What makes that certified?
What makes what certified?
The certified payment bond. What's the difference between a regular payment bond
the
and a certified?
definition of certified is interesting. It's defined as paper establishing an ownership claim. Is this a paper? Establishing an ownership claim?
That's why you also list there's collateral listed on there. It's certifying that there's also bonds for collateral on this.
Is there an oath on that or something? Would that make it certified?
Kinda. I mean, no more than this right here. In witness whereof, the signatory to this bond does hereby affix his respective hand and seal on this such and such day of the such and such month in the year 2010. So it's nothing more than that. There's not a like commercial oath and affidavit or anything like that on it.
You have it in the file. You have a copy of this.
We have a copy, but what makes it certified? I was looking just for a specific element that makes it certified.
You guys, the names of these documents have no meaning. It's the content. It's the substance of the form. I can call it the Cookie Monster bond.
Okay.
Okay, it doesn't matter.
Certified has got a signature on it. He certified it.
Yeah.
Verified it.
Just like we have our private indemnity bond, and we have the private set-off and discharge bond, and we have our private. You saw actually the two surety bonds I have in there had two different titles. One was a private surety bond, and the other one was just a surety bond. You know, and I lost.
Isn't the wording on this a security agreement? But remember, up at the top, didn't he show that notice of this is registered at the Secretary of State's office? So once you've got a security agreement that's registered, isn't it like title claim? Well, couldn't you go to the Secretary of State's office and certify out of the Secretary of State's office on that UCC that there's notice of this?
You ready? You better wrap it up. I've got to close it.
So there's a party that can certify that there is a registration notice of this.
You wrap it up. Okay. All right, ladies and gentlemen, let's deal one more question here, and then I'll give you a little closing statement, and we'll see you all next year at Clear Lake. Question, Mel?
In the larger picture of things, what do you see coming? Like crashing the dollar, etc.?
I don't buy into fear-mongering.
I will tell you what I see, and we each had an opinion, but I see nothing but blue skies and sunshine, believe it or not.
What difference does it make if you're a creditor? There may be a number of things they're trying to pull on you, but who's worried about what's going to happen?
And ultimately,
only debtors.
You author the experience and the reality of your experience. Don't think for a moment that these engineered ideas of what your future is just that, engineered. And until enough of you believe in it and create it, then it'll happen. When they told you that there was a problem with money and banking, that's when you created it. We create the world around us. We create the reality, we create the experience. I know that sounds esoterical, and it seems... Right, you've been told, but you don't experience it and you're not living it. So right now you're still a victim to the world around you.
I think, Brandon, would you say you see blue skies and sunshine?
Always.
Jack, you see those?
Absolutely. All
there
we
you
have
go.
is
Let me
remedy.
close with what James Allen will close with in his little treatise. Yes, humanity surges with passion, is tumultuous with ungoverned grief, is blown about by anxiety and doubt. Only the wise man, only he whose thoughts are controlled and purified, makes the storms of the mind and winds and storms of the mind obey him, of the soul obey him. Tempest-tossed souls, wherever you may be, under whatever conditions you may live, know this. In the ocean of life, the isles of blessedness are smiling, and the sunny shore of your ideal awaits your coming. Keep your hands firmly on the helm of thought. In the core of your soul reclines the commanding master. He does but sleep. Self-control is strength. Right thought is mastery. Calmness is power. Say unto your heart, peace, be still. Have a wonderful week. We love you all. We'll see you
You're
when
a
we see
great
you
audience.
next.